second conversation this evening is about building positive descriptions. And let's take a minute and understand a little bit more about that. It's a three-step process, and we'll start here. So what does it mean, and why are positive descriptions important? So you have a decision to make in learning how to describe the people that you care about. I'll read you this story. This is about Taylor. Taylor is 13 years old and in the 6th grade. He has a diagnosis of mental retardation and a history of seizures. His disease has caused tumors to grow in various organs and tissues of his body, most significantly his brain and both kidneys. Taylor reads on a 2nd grade level. Handwriting is really hard for him due to poor spatial awareness and weak fine motor skills. He needs assistance to follow instructions that require more than 2 steps. Math is his most difficult subject due to a very limited understanding of the abstract concepts as well as no sequencing ability. He has no concept of numbers. Taylor is receiving special education and related services, including speech, physical, and occupational therapies. He exhibits some receptive and expressive language difficulties. Taylor is a pleasant young man who is eager to please. Where would you expect to find Taylor? So, Shannon, in your group, where did they think they would find Taylor at school, and what did they see for his future?
In a self-contained special ed classroom, and most likely in and out of hospitals in the future because of his health condition.
Oh, all right. Sherry?
Yes, we thought that Taylor would probably be in a self-contained special ed room, and probably his future would hold that of something in more of a sheltered workshop.
Okay. All right. All right, good enough. So let's move on, and then we can think about this a little bit more. I would like to read you a story about Lee. Lee is a 7th grader. He is a hardworking and creative individual who takes his work seriously. He is persistent and committed. He is especially fascinated by the social studies and sciences. His favorite television shows are the Discovery Channel and the Weather Channel. He enjoys working with his hands, particularly with small engines. Lee has traveled the United States and Texas extensively, and has traveled outside of the United States on both borders as well. His hobby is model railroading. He operates a large O-gauge railroad at home. He volunteers his time to a local nonprofit organization repairing their lawnmowers and mowing lawns. He rides horses weekly. Lee maintains an AB average every year and has been elected by his teachers to receive the Citizenship Award twice in the last 3 years. He has received the Presidential Academic Excellence Award, and Lee ran cross-country this fall, winning an 8th place medal in district. He plans to run on the track team in the spring. If you were to walk into this school, where would you expect to find Lee, and what would you see as his future? All right, Cindy, what does your group think about where you would find Lee at school and what his future might look like?
We felt that he would be in a regular ed classroom and that he would have a really good future, and he would probably be in competitive community employment.
Okay, all right. How about Beth?
Our group thinks that he would be taking social studies and science classes, regular ed classes. He would definitely be in a gym class because he's a runner. He is destined for higher education and possibly might get a job, in a weather-related job, some kind of meteorologist or something like that.
Okay, all right. All right, so in case you haven't guessed, Taylor and Lee are the same person. But when we focus on what is possible for people and what they're being successful at, it helps us to see more about what is possible for them in the future. And it helps us to see what is working that we can build upon. So what we're saying is there is a choice here to think about how we describe a person and what kind of words we use to describe a person. And if we describe people by what they can do as opposed to how they are labeled or where they are currently being educated right now, how much more possibility we see. Now there's another step to building a positive description, obviously, and that's because not everything about all of us is great all the time, right? Right. So how do we deal with that? And I think one thing every one of us is doing for ourselves every day, as well as our children and the people we love, is we're trying to find a balance between what's good for us and what's good, right? So what's important to us and what's important for us. So let's think about that in a more formalized way. You have this in your handout so you can refer back to it. But in Essential Lifestyle Planning, there's a core concept, and it's called balancing important 2 and 4. And that's to help us focus on what we are all doing every day, every single one of us, as well as what, as family, what we're doing on behalf of our children and our loved ones, as well as what our loved ones are doing in their own way. So to think about what's important to a person, we think about what motivates that person, what do they love to do, who do they want to be with, what are the places they love to go, what's the rhythm or pace of life they're telling us that they really want, that's really important to them, or that they're showing us is important to them, because not everybody uses words, and we don't always use words to show what we're really passionate about. Lots of times it's our behavior, right? All right, so with our words, our behavior, what are people showing us is important to them, that motivates them, that helps them get going in the day, right? Now, what's important for a person, let's just keep that simple. It's what's important for their health and safety. So what's important for their health? To prevent further illness. What's important to treat illness and or any medical conditions the person may have. What's important for them to promote wellness or well-being. What's important for the person to be, and each of us, in order to be healthy and safe. And what do others see as necessary to help the person be healthy and safe and be a valued and contributing citizen. So if you look at what we're doing here, we're looking at what's important to us based on what we say is important to us, or what we're showing is important to us. And we're keeping that communication very clearly on the page in front of us so that we can hear it and receive it and know what we're hearing over here. And then on the other side of the balance beam, if we think of this as a balance beam, we're looking at the things that are important for us, those things that we should do for our health and safety, or that we need to do enough for our health and safety in order to stay healthy, to promote our health, to promote our safety, and those things that other people think are important to us, or important for us. And there's a balance there. Now, I want to take you outside of our own individual definition and lists of what's important to us and important for us. And usually I'll take the opportunity to ask a few people what that is, but we have 9 locations and a long check-in site. So I'm going to tell you a few of the things that people almost always bring up. They bring up a healthy diet. Healthy enough. They bring up taking medication on a regular basis. They bring up sleep, and enough sleep is important for us. Those things are important for us. They bring up a roof over our heads, and some people will bring up work, and those are the things that are important for us. The things that people generally will bring up that are important to them have to do with having a really fun time with my family and friends. There better be some shopping in my important to list, I got to tell you. And at least one visit to the hairdresser. I try to make it a month, but it usually is about 5 weeks, right? Because I've been knowing this hairdresser for 19 years, and I got to know how her kids are doing, and she's got to know how I am. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she does. The things that are important to us are motivating and connecting, and they feel pretty good. The things that are important for us, I have to have enough salads. I get a little tired of it, but I still need it. I need to take my cholesterol medication. I get a little tired of that, but I still need it. Those are the things that are important for us. And then there's a balance. But one thing to remember about the things that are important for us is that nobody does what's important for them unless it is somehow connected to what's important to us. So I don't take my cholesterol medication just to take my cholesterol medication. I take my cholesterol medication because I want to see my grandkids grow up. And heart issues and high cholesterol runs in the women in my family. At a certain age, that's what's going to happen to you. So I want to live a long time. I want to be with my grandkids. I want to see my family grow up. So, and that's important to me, so I take that cholesterol medication. I want to be able to move around and do the things I want to do, and I like to travel. That's a lot. Listen, I enjoy that. I like talking to folks like you. I like that. In order to do that, I have to have a certain amount of walking in my life. I have to have a certain amount of good diet and health in my life so that I can stay healthy enough to do the things I want to do, because I have to haul things in the meeting rooms. I have to put things on walls, and sometimes I have to be on my feet for several hours a day. So that means I have to stay healthy. But do I enjoy going for walks? I don't really. I'm tired of it. Maybe years ago, I'm 60 now, folks. Maybe years ago I liked going for walks or even runs. So I could do without at this point. But I will do it because it helps, because I know it helps me to be more energized when I'm with people at 10 minutes after 7 at night, right? Okay. So that's the important 2 and 4 balance that we're all working on, that we're also working on behalf of the people we love. Now, if we only do the things that are important for us, and let's think about that, because many of us started learning about disability and being very engaged with disability with our medical providers in a medical system. And our service systems really grew out of highly medicalized systems, right? Highly medicalized systems are about health and safety predominantly. They grow, but they're predominantly about health and safety. So there's a whole lot of accountability in our helping systems about basic health and safety. And that weights what we do with people to be really concerned with health and safety. But what happens when we are mostly concerned with health and safety? If you are putting me in a position where I'm going to get my medication, I'm going to get my walks every day, and I'm going to get my healthy diet, right? And that's all I'm getting, because that's what we spend the most of our time looking at. Where would you be if you were only focused on what was important for you? How would you be feeling? Well, I get frustrated right away, I have to tell you. But like I said, I'm 60. When I was 50, I wasn't as frustrated, but I am now. So as you go through life, that becomes more frustrating. And when I have these conversations with large groups of people, there are people who say, you know, I would quit talking with those people if all they did was bring up to me what was healthy and safe for me. I would quit talking. I would withdraw. And if we withdraw from each other and we withdraw into ourselves, then what happens to us? Depression, right? Other people said, if I lived in a situation where the only thing we were focusing on is our health and our safety, you know what I would do? I would run away, right? So I'd be out of there. You would not be able to keep me there. Other people will say what would be true for me is that they would start swinging. I know, I'm a short person. That's really silly. But that's what I would do, because I was raised with 5 kids in my family, and we were very physical. So that people who have no disabilities that they're dealing with on an everyday basis, no obvious disability that they're working against and working with in order to get the life they want, will discuss, if you focus predominantly on health and safety, how very quickly they move into depression, into anxiety, into running away, into very troubling behavior, hurting people, right? So the very system that is designed in this more extreme discussion, but the very system that is designed to ensure our health and safety, in fact, is doing what? It's out of balance, right? And it's creating less health and safety. Now, if we go to the other side and we only do the things that people want because it's a lot of fun and let's just do the fun stuff, then what happens? What happens on the important to side? I think we can think about that. I think we have a sense of that. For me, I would be in sessions like this all the time because it's a lot of fun and I learn a lot. And I love to learn, right? So I would be working a lot. I'd be working a lot. I might not have as much time to be around for my grandkids as a result, so I'd be losing out on that. And after a while, I'd kind of forget about the things that really create the core of me, which are my everyday relationships, my home I've retired into. I have a husband. I love him. I might miss him, right? Right. So if I spend most of my time focused on what's important to me, then what happens to me? I wear out. I get anxious. I might start to withdraw from the very things that give me joy, and I might become depressed. So if you stay focused on the important to end of it, then what happens? Again, more health and safety issues. So of course what we're looking for is what? A balance. We're looking for the balance between what is important to us and what is important for us, and the trade-offs that we find useful for ourselves, that we find that work for us. And trade-offs are very individual. No one probably could have guessed some of my trade-offs. No one could have guessed that I would have started walking in order to do some of these things. No one could have guessed that I would have gone to the doctor more times in order to stay healthier, because I'm a doctor resistor. I know, it's terrible. So my trade-offs are very different, and how I find balance is very different. So if we're looking at building a life that works for me, right, who do we need to talk to about trade-offs? Me, right? And if I don't use words to communicate, well, my husband might be happier. But if he's not, but someone who knows and loves me, who I could trust to really look at what is my message, would be the person I would pull into that conversation. So who would I pull into that conversation? Someone I know who would take their own best interests and set them aside in order to try to help me communicate what is important to me and what is important for me. Now, there's no question what is important for me requires consultation. What is important to me can require consultation, but I can tell you those things. Now, that being said, I've sat down with people and I've developed my own plans, and when people can teach me things about myself and teach me more about what I'm showing them is really important to me and really motivating for me. So consultation works. But just to recognize with all of us that what is important to us and for us and in that balance is what we're trying to accomplish. So yes, a positive description, but a positive description involves doing a really good survey of what's important to that person, what motivates them, what are they good at, what is creating a good life, making their life alive, and then what absolutely must be there for that person to be at their core, healthy and safe. Right? So it's a balance, but it requires both. So with that in mind, now we want to talk about how do we deal with those negatives. Well, we address them. We learn from them and we address them. This is the three-step process for learning from and addressing negatives. We identify the negative, we write it down, we make sure we hear it right, and we don't sugarcoat things. We learn from that. What is really positive about that? Some things are actually, for instance, the person gets angry if you talk about them in front of them. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, that can be a really good sign of self-respect. So the positive wants to be part of conversations about himself and doesn't want to hear negative reports in a group. That's all right. And it says being respected and knowing I'm respected is important to me. So how do we best support that person that doesn't want to hear that negative labeling going on in front of them? Have those conversations one-on-one so that you can learn more about what the concerns are and learn to address them. Does that make sense? find out what he or she needs in order to address that negative behavior. And what we've learned over time, and you have to realize this is an exercise and this is a way of looking at support and looking at supporting people for a long time. This has been around a good 25 years, and this has been practiced in this format for about 25 years. And what we've learned is the more we take the time to slow down, think, and learn about the negatives and address the negatives, the less the negatives are present and the more the positive is present. And the closer we are at seeing what capacity is and knowing really concretely what support really works. Now, over time, things change, right? Right. So creating the practice of having this way of thinking about things happens over time as well. But what I found is that nothing helps so much as taking 5 minutes, taking 10 minutes by yourself and looking at it and saying, okay, what is really positive about this? And what does this tell us is important to my son or daughter? And then how do we really know how to support him or her? What is the support that is needed? And it saves us from creating those long lists of negatives where a bad reputation is following someone around, when in fact it could be addressed. And it does not mean that there are not behaviors that are very concerning. Certainly workaholism is a concerning thing, right? Now, how do I address my workaholism is the question. So what is the support for that? So the support for that, for me, aside from the fact that it's positive to be passionate about your work, and it's important to me to do a good job, so I'm willing to spend more time at it, but how do I address the workaholism part of it? I remember how much I love my grandkids, and I carry pictures of them around. Sometimes I insert them in the PowerPoint I'm sharing with people when I'm around to remind myself of all those good feelings. And I always have something on the book that is in my calendar that is planned for me to just have family time, to get immersed in family time. And that's how I balance it out. But it's the support, and it's the active support that makes that work. Now, in transition, sometimes all bets are off, and I have to rethink, okay, before when I was doing these things, this is how I addressed my workaholism. Now, I'm in a different scenario. What am I going to do that? And that's where conversations and using relationships and really listening to people really helps. It's an ongoing thing. It changes over time.